Hey, welcome to our epic Libertarian crossover podcast talking about the debate that America just lived through. Thank you for joining us. And we have an all-star panel of Libertarian podcasters and myself. We'll start with Marc Clair, who is the host, one of the hosts of Lions of Liberty. Marc, how are you?
No, I'm the host. I am the host, and there are some alternate hosts that we have, including Brian McWilliams and the other gentleman here, the only non-bearded gentleman here with us, Mr. John Odermatt.
Honestly, we're questioning your tea, John Odermatt.
Questioning my tea?
Your testosterone seems a little low, not growing a beard.
Maybe you can't. I don't think I've ever seen you with any facial hair at all,
Beards are for the weak, to cover up, if you got a little bit of not a strong jawline, you grow the beard to cover that up. But
it's to cover up my double chin. That's the
Spangle looks like he really crafts his beard. Like he really takes time to shape it. Is that true?
I do. I go to a barber shop and I have him. If you see, he trims off the neck beard. I haven't been in a couple weeks. So
wow. In Pennsylvania, beard trims are illegal. So you're living the high life. I'm not kidding you at all.
Like, yeah, same in Virginia. My wife's been doing it. So
that's Howie Snowden, by the way.
Wait a minute.
Like the man himself who sent me down the path of liberty.
Oh yeah, we should finish introductions. Howie, how are you?
I'm good. I could use a beard trim, but besides that, pretty good.
And then Rhinehold down there. Rhinehold, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I could use color in my beard other than gray.
Yeah,
but are beard colorings legal?
All right, so I'm always surprised when I talk to the Lions crew or like Brian Nichols, who's from Philadelphia area, because here in Indiana, it's still the Wild West. We still act like it's 1865. There's laws, but we don't follow them. But why
I got a place actually? Should I be looking at Indiana?
Oh, Indiana and New Hampshire are kind of on the same level. When it's like when COVID hit, it's like, yeah, you weren't able to go to a restaurant for a couple months, but then everybody still was, and now, and then you talk to Brian Nichols out in Philly and he's like, yeah, I can't go to the gym. I'm like, it's September. What? So you can't, is it because of COVID you can't get a beard trim, or it's just banned in general?
It's because of COVID. Yeah. I want to clarify. They did just open it up where you can get a partial beard trim. You have to keep your mouth covered, so they can't do your mustache area, but they can do some of it. I'm like, the hell with that.
They actually send in inspectors too. My barber was telling me, well, when you get a regular haircut, you have to wear a mask the whole time, and they move the mask when they're cutting around your ears. My barber was telling me that they tried to send in an inspector undercover, trying to convince them to get a beard trim, to trim his beard, and the guy was being super aggressive. So my barber could obviously tell this guy is just obviously trying to bust me for trimming his beard, so he's kicked him out.
That is an amazing use of taxpayer money right there.
It's insanity.
So I walk into my barber shop in June, and there was one of those sandwich board signs that said "No masks allowed." So here in Indiana, you have the smoking ban, and that's how they set the mechanisms basically to ferret people out. But the public health departments are so busy they're not actually checking on anybody.
Well, and I don't think I've had a haircut since COVID hit.
I haven't either, but that's nothing to do with COVID.
So, all right. Well, we just watched a debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And let's start with our first reactions from the debate. Let's start with seniority. Let's start with Marc Clair. What were your thoughts on the debate?
What kind of seniority do I have?
You're the oldest person here?
I don't think I'm the oldest.
I think you started.
Rhinehold's got to have a month or two on me.
No, not now in age. Rhinehold would have to go before me.
I was trying to be, Anyway, well, it certainly was less of a mess than the other debate. I'll say that. I will say I really enjoyed watching Trump the whole time. My eyes were focused on Trump the entire time, largely because it's really fun to watch him about to interrupt or want to interrupt and then have to go. This is why you need to watch the video on the live stream, because I was just making no noise. So for the podcast, no one will understand. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I pretty much know what everybody's going to say. I can't say I learned a lot. I'm not sure if unbiased Americans learned a lot. I'm sure most people go into these things pretty much with their mind made up, and the answers that they hear are going to be filtered through that. So what percentage of Americans do you think actually turn this debate on to say, oh, gee, I have no idea who I'm going to vote for. Let me tune in to find out. I mean, there's got to be some amount, but I can't imagine it's a lot.
I don't think there's a lot of people that didn't know who they were going to vote for when they tuned in, but there might be some people that learned something since the mainstream media has not been covering the Hunter Biden laptop, the emails, the corruption with Joe Biden stuff. That might have been the first a lot of people heard about that at all.
Yeah, well, the thing with
you're
that,
already giving Rhinehold a headache, Howie.
That whole thing, I think, is, and I tweeted it out and I got some solicitations back, and almost unanimously on Twitter and Facebook comments, I'm watching this with my wife who's not political, and she has no idea what they're talking about. Like that all the Hunter Biden stuff, I think, is just so inside. It's very what journalists will call online, where they're talking about their issues, but like regular America is not paying attention to it. I think if you don't watch the news closely, there's a lot of stuff that happened in this debate that you were just clueless on, specifically that particular section on Ukraine and the laptop from hell.
It'll be interesting to look at the Google search trends, how they spike up, and what words they spike for.
Yeah.
But like with regards to like, did this change anyone's mind, and also with regards to the Hunter Biden Russia stuff, I mean, I think at this point, anybody who's voting for Joe Biden, they're voting for Joe Biden. I don't think they're being swayed. I don't think there's really undecided. There's nobody sitting there like, oh, should I vote for Biden or Trump? I can't decide. The people who are deciding right now they're deciding between Trump, staying home and not voting, or maybe voting third party. There's no like swing voter in the middle. I mean, there might be a few lunatics out there, but I don't think it's anything worth talking about.
I think this is the first election where at this point there's so few undecideds, right? This is really the whole election is really a referendum on Trump, and they could have put a wet shirt up there and ran against Trump and probably won, and somehow the Democrats actually did that. But it's
an old,
it's really
weird, creepy wet shirt.
It just doesn't matter at this point. As long as Trump didn't do anything tonight, I thought that would win him any votes. He plays to his base. His base is already going to vote for him. He doesn't need that. He needs to be playing for other people. And he didn't really land anything like that, except maybe one thing that most people probably won't even care much about. So,
yeah, the polling all shows that the undecided voters, usually there's 10 to 15%. This time it's less than 5%. It's within the margin of error of people who actually have no idea who they're voting for. Everybody, I mean, there isn't a human on the planet that doesn't have an opinion on Donald Trump because he's so good at making everything in the media about him. And they're so willing to do that because he drives so much revenue and ratings. And so everybody, I think Odie nailed it. It's people are trying to decide if they're going to make the effort to go stand in the 2 to 4 to 11 hour line to vote. Is it worth it? Am I going to be inspired? I do think that this comment here from a Facebook user, oil and gas will change people's minds. I do think that in Texas and Pennsylvania, at the very end, Biden made an unforced error where he basically said he wants to phase out the oil industry in 5 years. And if you're competing in Texas and Pennsylvania and it's a razor's thin margin there, why say that out loud? I think that
there's no way he can actually do that.
Of course.
Right.
Everything
it's never going to happen. So,
well, the way that they do it is with through blocking the permits. That's the way they do it. They're not going to officially put like a referendum on it, but they can easily do it by blocking the permits by putting.
Yeah, but how much does the federal have power over that as opposed to the state? And can he really do it as
it's
the
interstate?
president?
If the pipeline crosses state lines, it's interstate pipeline, so it's regulated by FERC. So yeah, they would have the control then. But if it's just within a state, then they don't. The federal government doesn't have any control really over it.
So I like how Trump specifically called out Texas, Pennsylvania. You hear me? You hear this? You hear this? I mean,
yeah,
the 2 states he needs to win, but I don't think it's going to be enough, even if he does, because I don't think anybody's in the calculation thinking Texas isn't going to go for Trump. I know it's talked about as a toss-up, but it's still leaning Trump. So I don't think he's really lost anything there. But Pennsylvania, that it depends on how much that's going to swing or not. I don't know, but
So do you think the polls that we're seeing are more accurate than in 2016?
Yes,
I do too.
No, I think they're probably less accurate.
Yeah,
Less accurate.
I think so too.
Well, I think they're less accurate because
I'm going to be the dark horse and say they're exactly the same accuracy.
I mean, my reasoning for it is because it is more hazardous than in 2016, much more hazardous to be a Trump supporter, to be an open Trump supporter. People lose their job. I know many Trump supporters who will not put a sign in their yard at their home, but if they have a vacation house somewhere in a more Trump-friendly area, they'll put a sign up there. It's a very real thing.
We have Trump trains every weekend where I live.
I think that a lot of this is about where you live.
There are Trump trains, but
where I live, it's very dangerous to be a Trump supporter.
I would not go out in a MAGA hat.
Yeah, but do you think where you live that Trump's going to win?
No, that's
yeah. That's what I'm saying. Those
what I'm saying. It's all about where you live.
He is not going to win in Virginia.
If you look at the national polls in 2016, they had Hillary Clinton winning by 3%. She won by 2-point-something%. It wasn't that far off.
At the election,
77,000 votes.
At the end, they had that.
Well, because
leading up to it was
when
much
Comey
wider.
came out.
Yeah.
Right. When Comey came out, it changed the race because there were a lot more undecided. There were people who hated Hillary just as much as they hated Trump, and they were bouncing back and forth on which one they were going to have to plunk down their vote for. Right?
In 2016, go ahead, Rhinehold. Sorry.
He won by like 77,000 votes in a few key states where a couple of the state pollings were way off. So those weren't called right. But I don't think for the most part, that's going to be, and people learn from that these pollsters aren't going to just go, well, I don't know, and then not change anything that they're doing. They're still trying to fine tune and get these better. I think,
why do you assume they can change what they're doing?
The media and the politicians and everybody else haven't learned a goddamn thing. So I don't know why the pollsters would be any different.
I think people assume there's like something you tweak or something you poll a little differently. I don't think you can just somehow uncover the correct amount of support of Trump supporters. I don't think it's possible.
They dive down into looking at the demographics and how the demographics are changing, how different polling is happening in state races that match up to the federal race. I mean, there's a lot of different things they can do, a lot of statistical things that they do to evaluate that stuff. And they change the weighting of a lot of the polling to match and to compensate for those things. That's why they have a 2 or 3% failure rate, a 2 or 3% variance. And by that regards, they were well within what happened in 2016, right? And at this point in 2016, they weren't 10 points apart from each other.
In 2016, if you looked in the congressional races, this is where some people started to see the trend. It just didn't make it into the national polls. So the national polls were wildly wrong. But if you were watching congressional races, you started to see this massive shift in white, no college educated, without a college education, start to shift towards Trump in a pretty significant, almost a 10-point swing in the last couple weeks of the race, which is why so many people are on the left are freaking out about these registrations. Republicans are having really solid registration numbers recently. But what you see in the congressional races now is that's not happening. So like if you take District 28 in New York, Trump won that by 16 points. He's now losing that by 1 in all the polling. So you saw, if you were paying attention to the right stuff in 2016, you could see the trend. It's just that didn't make it to most of our feeds. It didn't make it to the news. It wasn't really talked about because people took it for granted. But I think if anything, there's going to be an overcorrection. So there was some guy wrote an article, I forget where, basically saying like, if this were any other candidate in 2016 hadn't happened, there'd be nothing but article after article about how Trump is just about to get thumped based on all the polling, which has been incredibly consistent across the board. But people are so gun shy, pollsters are so gun shy, journalists, all of us are like, I'm not making a prediction. I don't know who's going to win. It can be 15 points. I know you will, but like most people will go, I'll select Trump because if he's not favored to win, and then if he does win, then I look like a genius. Like it's somewhat of a safer pick if you go a little contrarian there. But by and large, most people don't want to make a pick because they're gun shy. So they're overcorrecting. So I think you're right, Odie, that nobody really knows because it is really the only third presidential election with social media in the social media environment. And it's still really nascent and really hard to understand where the populace is, because you can spend all day on Twitter, but your Twitter is totally different than my Twitter versus Howie's.
And you're assuming people are being honest in their poll responses.
Well, yeah, but we're not talking one poll. This is like over the course of a year. It hasn't changed.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to see some hidden people changing their votes in a poll or hiding in a poll over that many polls over so long of a period of time.
Rhinehold, you're right in that the polls haven't changed, but you can see the hidden Trump voter in the favorable, unfavorable versus will you vote for him. So his unfavorable is a little higher than will you vote for him, because for whatever reason people seem to be willing to say they like him, but they're not gonna vote.
So Chris, this makes me think of 3 different polls that I've seen recently. One was there was like 56% of people were saying that they're better off now than they were 4 years ago. There's also one that was like 60 some aren't comfortable expressing their political views, and today Trump's favorability just went over 50%. Those things tend to make me think that
in a Rasmussen poll.
Where did it go over 50%? I'm sorry.
Rasmussen.
Nowhere near. Well, okay.
Yeah.
They were the closest in the last election.
In all of this, in aggregate,
had him down. But
you have to look at a bunch of different data points. Like if you just follow Rasmussen, then of course you're going to think that Trump is doing better than he might do in other polls, because but even Rasmussen is saying like this is not going well for the president, and they're historically very favorable to him. You know what Rhinehold, where he just made the point, is like when you look at all the data points kind of put together, there's about an 8 to 10 point gap in all of this, and that's backed up by all the congressional races and the Senate races. The Republicans should be walking into. They should have picked up a couple seats. The map was that favorable. They have 22 seats in play. And they're not going to win that. They're probably going to lose the Senate. Like, that's a very bad sign for the president. And then you have Jared Kushner shopping around a new TV network to fellow Republicans. Like, that doesn't instill confidence that they think that they're going to win.
And then Trump said in the twice in the debate tonight that he thinks that the Republicans are going to win the House. I mean, does anybody think that's a possibility?
I definitely think it is. I mean, if Trump wins re-election, they're going to win the House probably.
Okay.
I'm
wondering what planet I'm living on right now.
This is the problem with Trump and the Trump phenomenon.
We're all going to know what planet it is in a couple weeks.
This is
or maybe not.
Or months.
Or maybe we won't. Or maybe we won't.
We all talk into microphones in front of audiences, very, very large audiences.
The largest, most beautiful audience.
That actually reminds me, before you go any farther, I just wanted to say, everyone on this call, I am the least racist person here. Just want to put that out.
I laughed so hard at that.
All right, Abraham Lincoln.
I do, someone.
And Abraham Lincoln's racist. That's what he was getting at, right? I agree.
But you can understand, we were.
Well, there's a bunch of people in that room.
Lincoln is very racist. Too, right?
Lincoln, I can definitely say Donald Trump is less racist than Abraham Lincoln.
Everyone alive today is probably less racist than Abraham Lincoln.
When we talk into these microphones and we make claims and we make points and we make assertions, we feel the need to have evidence to back up our arguments, because
that's where we differ, my friend. I just talk. I don't worry about that stuff.
I don't agree that Donald Trump's going to win this election, but I saw Odie say he does, and he had reasons for why he felt that way. And so I go, okay, he has evidence and arguments. He has reasons for his argument. Donald Trump so often, and Joe Biden did some of this, but the Trump phenomenon, for whatever reason, he gets to make as many claims as possible, like, I'm going to win the House, with no evidence. And he does such a poor job of providing evidence for his arguments that he loses credibility. And then when you say he doesn't have any credibility with me, people go, well, you just have Trump derangement syndrome. It's like, no, I'm just treating him like I would treat Odie or Howie or Rhinehold, or how I would expect to be treated if I continually said I'm going, that's why he got called out on the healthcare stuff. I'm going to have the best healthcare plan. He's literally been saying that it's 2 weeks from now we're going to unveil the healthcare plan for the last 4 years, or we're going to lock up Hillary Clinton.
But Chris, we expect evidence for these claims, but not the American people. Evidence isn't like a big popular thing with them. They're pretty much emotional animals.
In fact, it's quite unpopular.
It's very unpopular.
If you try to present evidence, you're
maybe I don't know if it's the libertarian world, but at least us here, evidence kind of drives what we go with. But the American people, not so much.
Maybe, but that may be why his polling he's never really gotten above 43% in likability. Like, I just think, like Joe Biden, when he says he's going to kill off the oil industry in 5 years, that's a claim that everybody knows there's no evidence that he has the ability to do that. Like, he can't do it, and he if he's trying to be the more credible, more honest candidate tonight, I thought was really bad for him. I thought
I can't believe he said that. That is unbelievable that he said that.
Some people probably don't know it, but some of just the lies in these debates make me so angry. Like when he repeated the lie again about Putin putting bounties on Russian soldiers, which we know from our intel sources now is not true. It's just like makes me so furious. But nobody, I'm sure 99% of people watching it think, oh yeah, Putin did that.
Or 1%, less than 1% of the people who were the asylum seekers came back for their hearings. That's not true either. It's like over 45% or higher than that. I mean, I don't know where he gets this less than 1% thing.
It still would probably be smarter not to go to the trial.
Yeah, I guess it's
right about that part.
It's frustrating to watch two politicians stand there and make these claims, know they're all bullshit, and then just have so many people go, well, even libertarians, it's like they're secretly rooting for Trump or they're secretly rooting for Biden, instead of just going like, no, these guys are just full of shit. They're just making things up. Call them on their bullshit, and nobody ever does.
Well, what do you mean by that? Because I wouldn't vote for either of these war criminals. I'm going to vote for Joe Jorgensen, but I do have a preference of which one of them wins.
And it's not secret for him.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Howie Hawkins.
I mean, us Howies do got to stick together. There's not too many in there.
I told Mark this. I was thinking about you the other day. I was like, I wonder if Howie's voting for Howie, because there's not many Howies. Like, I would totally, if I were a Howie, think about voting for Howie Hawkins just to support my Howie.
You have to at least consider it.
I hadn't really considered up until now.
How often do you get a point to?
I have been a little disappointed with the
Jorgensen
campaign. I might have to do it now.
Well, you can't vote for Howie Hawkins in Pennsylvania because the Democrats forced him off the ballot.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if he's on the ballot here or not.
Did you see in Montana that the Green Party the Green Party got tossed off there, and the Green Party put out a statement basically saying we have no idea who paid for all these signatures to try and get us on the ballot in the first place, and then it got leaked that it was the same Republican law firm that tried to do it 2 years before.
Didn't surprise me.
We should just give up on this voting thing. It's ridiculous, really.
That's the cynical Howie we love. All right. What were your general impressions of the debate?
Well, first off, I was really pleased that it wasn't the big disaster the last one was. Like the last time I was hoping for a shit show, but not like as bad as it was. It was even off-putting to me just how ridiculous the last one was. But I thought this was pretty good.
If you're going to off-put Howie, you're doing some really crazy shit right there, because Howie does not get off-put very often.
It's like I kind of enjoy watching things collapse, but that was just too much even for me. I don't know. I was taken aback. I was not expecting that. But this time we did get to hear from both candidates. As we said, they're both full of shit, but there are some revealing things to people that actually follow things and pay attention. And I thought the moderator did a good job, way better than Chris Wallace.
I felt she interrupted too much to try and be a hard ass instead of kind of letting them have some exchanges that I was kind of like into hearing what Trump had to say in response, and she kept kind of interrupting because she didn't want to be Chris Wallace by her colleagues. Were you guys annoyed by the moderator too, or is that just me?
I thought she did a much better job than Chris Wallace overall. I mean, Chris Wallace just totally lost control and then kind of fed into it, escalating his own voice. But I thought the funny part was there were a couple times early on when Trump was, trying to respond to something Biden said, and she'll say, okay, just 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, or maybe she didn't say 5 seconds, but just like real short, like response times. It's like, that's kind of ridiculous.
Odie, did you see when something happened? She says to Joe Biden, she's like, would you like to respond to that? And he's like, no. Well, okay.
No, his response was no to what the question
Oh, okay. Like,
Rhinehold,
I'll say.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Marc.
No, I was just going to make a random comment about the scariest thing that I heard. Honestly, either candidate say to me was Trump coming out with this, what did he call it? Operation Fast Track or Operation Warp Speed? Operation Warp Speed, I think it was, having the military. I've heard him mention it before, but it's the first time I don't know, I guess that it really was like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? That the military is going to rapidly distribute the vaccine. What does that mean, distribute the vaccine? Does it mean they're there offering to hand it out if you want it? Or does it mean they're going around knocking on doors, distributing the vaccine? That's what I want. I don't like it either way.
Since the first time I heard this, it's fueled my fears of a mandatory vaccine.
So this has been discussed a little bit because part of the challenge is that there is no national infrastructure, which is why this is all not a great idea. Because like we were talking about with the smoking bans 10 years ago here in Indianapolis, that system that was built is now being used for COVID to implement that and is being ramped up and empowered, and they will be used again for something else.
Wait, what was the system for smoking bans?
And so they basically hired a bunch of public health employees to go around to local bars and restaurants and make sure that people weren't smoking in offices when they outlawed smoking. And that none of that went away. Those people still are on the payrolls, and they didn't have much to do. Thank goodness for COVID. And so the problem for vaccines getting out into the population quickly are that there are not a lot of like the amount of vaccines that would be created and then immediately distributed is far greater a supply than the chain has to distribute. And so what the federal government has looked at doing is bringing on the National Guard, essentially. So sort of what the National Guard does in times of emergency, which is you don't have the policing power to manage this crisis, so we'll bring in some trained troops to help you with the riot or the flooding. And bring those people in to start distributing the vaccine and use those military trucks to get it from point A to point B to point C.
Is that all we're talking about? Is like using trucks to move things? Or are we like...
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying,
Here's the thing,
Marc.
though, is it's not the National Guard. He said the military. He said he had generals. Right. He doesn't control.
He's got I got this general guy who's ready to go. I'm like, what are you talking about?
He's also saying he's going to have 100 million vials ready to just go in 2 weeks.
Well, that's obviously a made up number.
How many people think that Donald Trump knows how government works and thinks that he is being honest and is telling us the truth? Like, I don't.
Donald Trump, not. But that's
knows,
that's kind of the emotional response. It doesn't the point he's trying to convey. He's not trying to tell you the inner logistics of how it's going to happen. He's saying, I got this general guy who's raring and ready to go. We got 100 million vaccines, and we're going to get it out to you. And he says the word military. Most Americans have a lot of respect for the military. Libertarian circles, a little bit different. But that's the path he's going down. It's the emotional response. You could trust the military. You can trust this infrastructure. So that's the only thing he's going for, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's exactly right. He's using language that he thinks he can sell. Never forget, as Odie and I talk about occasionally, he's a salesman. He takes it to the extreme to draw you back, to negotiate his point back. Like he is a bullshitter. It's why I just don't like him as a president, is because he's constantly bullshitting like he would as if it's a sales job. He's
a lot of dog whistles.
Yeah.
I do think with the vaccine, though, that us white men should put our privilege aside and allow others to get the vaccine first.
I loved the question to Kamala. Would you get the vaccine first? And she went, I don't trust Donald Trump's vaccine. It was like, okay, I want to see Pelosi. I want to see Trump. I want to see Fauci. I want to see all those people lined up there taking the vaccine first because it's the right thing to do, to model. It's good leadership. And then we'll give it 3 weeks and the rest of us will.
Now they'll just go do a photo shoot and have some guy sticking a fake needle in him and be like, and give it the thumbs up. Look, I'm taking my COVID vaccine.
They did that in another country recently. I wish I remembered the specifics, but it was like the president of somewhere, and they were giving him like it was the flu vaccine, but they still had the plastic cap on the needle, and like you could see in the picture.
My favorite part of the debate was when Biden was going on some emotional appeal, saying how much he loved America and how much he's working for Americans. And my brain went, "You, sir, are full of shit, and I don't believe this. This is an over-rehearsed line that your people told you had to do." And Donald Trump goes, "You're full of shit. You're a politician. Nobody believes you." And that was probably my favorite moment of the debate. What was your favorite moments?
Well, the biggest mystery is who built the cages. I don't know, but I just appeared. All I know is we need a "Who Built the Cages" T-shirt in the Lions Liberty store soon.
And with lions in the cage.
We know who built them, we know who filled them. So
who has been in charge of the cages for 5 years? Like, if you both find it egregious, well, Donald, you can end it right now. Like, just because they built it suddenly, well, they built it. They built nuclear weapons. I had to deploy them.
The real takeaway should be that
started the genocide in Yemen. I had to continue it.
Right.
This entire system, Republican and Democrat alike, agree with our shitty immigration laws overall. They might have slight tweaks here and there, but they both basically execute what I feel is horrific enforcement of border laws, which I don't even think the border should exist. So that's my thing. But the point, real takeaway.
It's horrific, but you got to understand what was going on. And so there were cages there that they would put them people in for a temporary thing, and then they would do the catch release thing that Trump yells about. Trump came in and did zero tolerance policy, right? He said nobody gets released. So they had to house those people. So not only did they use the existing couple of detention centers that they might have had, they started building large detention centers. Those large detention centers were built by a guy a company that a guy runs that was in the first year of Donald's administration, to Trump's administration, and then left. So he wrote the policy on where they were going to send the zero tolerance policy, leaves the administration, goes to work for this company, and goes and builds all of those detention centers.
It's not surprising.
Right.
That's the same thing that happened with the TSA.
The Rapiscan.
The guy who with the
Rapiscan, my favorite company name.
I forget what his role was. He was involved somewhere in the previous administration. And then he leaves, and that's his product. I can't remember his name.
The TSA was Rapiscan.
Yeah,
that's the name of the one of the scanner companies that for the I don't know if it's the current ones, but the original scanners. Yeah. I remember the first time I went through an airport, like shortly after those came in, I just started laughing so hard when I saw it because the name's right on there. It says Rapiscan. I was just like, really, guys? Really? Is this what's happening here?
Telling you what it is. But the then you hear Trump talking about corruption, and it's just like, really? I mean, that was always surprised. I think that's why Biden won the nomination, and a lot of people don't understand maybe why Biden won out of all the other people, but Biden and his pick Kamala blunts a lot of Trump's attacks. Because how can they go after Biden for not being as much of a law and order guy? He can't say that, so he's got to try something else. He can't go after him on a lot of issues. That's why he keeps trying to throw AOC +3.
He has
all this stuff is AOC +3. He's going to have to do everything that the left liberals have want him to do. That's his only attack. He can't attack Joe because all of the attacks that he would normally use are blunted.
And you saw that in the debate when he tried something like that with Biden, and Biden goes, it was healthcare. He goes, "I beat all those people because I'm not for single payer. Like, what are you talking about?"
Yeah, but he's trying to do, he's trying to get Biden to disenchant all the Bernie bros.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it.
He does, because he needs them to win.
Those people will crawl over glass to vote.
Hillary didn't have them.
Joe's not Hillary.
Bernie got cheated twice. You don't think those people are pissed?
This race is about Trump exhaustion syndrome.
Yeah.
People are tired.
Just exhausted.
They don't want him to be president anymore. 60% of the people wanted him thrown out during the impeachment.
Okay.
They didn't just change their mind.
I know a lot of far left communists that want Biden and Kamala destroyed.
Right, but they were going to vote for
a lot.
anybody
How many
else.
far left communists do you hang out with?
You'd be surprised the circles that Howie hangs.
Actually, edit that part out. That might affect my job.
We're live, pal.
It's like, listen, they look at it the same way that like Austin Peterson, when he talks about voting for Trump, he views it as self-protection. He doesn't like Trump, but he's better than Biden. And so if you're on the far left, you look at it and go, I don't really care. I know that Biden has this horrendous record with the crime bills and the drug war and was the Republicans' favorite
and the wars.
And like, but he's going to be better for the issues I care about than Donald Trump. And I don't know why we don't recognize that, like, the far left, none of this is about the far left or the far right. It's all about like that 10 to 15%. And that's why you look at these suburbs. Like here in Indiana, we have the 5th district, which was a deeply red district, and it's now probably going to swing to the Democrats. And it's just and largely because of women, and it's not because women are by and large super ideological. I think they're a lot more practical about politics than men are a lot of times, and they go, nah, this is just all ludicrous. This is foolish. I can't take this. That 10%, that 20% in the middle who really don't have a ton of allegiance that fall into all this are going for Biden. That's like the registrations. The Republicans are all in on these registrations, but there's a lot of independent registration, and like 60% of those independent registrations are all going to Biden. The Gary Johnson vote, half of it's going to Biden. And it's just, we talk a lot
Bill Weld, you got Bill Weld.
He got Bill Weld. I see a lot of it going, well, it's just Trump's words.
What a surprise.
If people look at Trump's policies, then it's not as
Bill Weld, this is a tangent, but do you think Bill Weld even voted for Gary Johnson?
No.
I doubt it.
I honestly don't think he did.
Yes, because he was on the ballot and he wanted to make sure he got the vote.
No, but
you really think so?
Yes. How much Bill Weld hates Trump.
That's what I'm saying. I think he hates Trump enough to vote against himself.
He might have voted for Hillary. I wouldn't be surprised.
Bill Weld loves Bill Weld more than he hates Donald Trump.
Whenever he finally responds to my interview request, I'll be sure to ask him.
Well,
I think if he loved himself more than hated Trump, then he would have said some of the things he said.
Bill Weld doesn't love himself. That's why he drinks so much. Come on.
Yeah, there's some bar. There's some bar in Massachusetts.
I was very offended by that.
The Bill Weld regulars, and one of our Pride members, Josh Anderson, ran into him there. And we just got to,
hilarious story.
Once the COVID stuff is over, we just got to, position ourselves and get in that bar, and then buy him a couple drinks.
We have to go to this specific bar.
Bill,
in Boston.
did you vote for yourself in 2016? Come on. Come on. A little more whiskey? Come on. Tell me the truth.
Yeah, I won't share his private story that he shared with us on a private Zoom call, but let's just say it didn't show Bill Weld as being the best character in the world. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll leave that part out.
No shit.
Edit that part out. Oh, wait. No.
I mean,
that's how he would say.
There's 5 years of bad character. When he was here in Indiana, he gave this speech, and he kind of he gave a defense and for some of the things, and he took the tough questions that the delegates threw at him. He answered it all. He didn't shy away from any of it. His answers were reasonable, and then he just was aloof and arrogant and a jerk afterwards, and I don't think he stuck around very long. Rhinehold,
he didn't, and he refused to interview,
and he refused.
A well-known podcaster.
He gave a question and answer, or not. I don't think it was even question and answer. I think he just gave a talk at PorkFest. We slept through it, but I was like, oh, maybe I'll try to grab him afterwards. His talk was at 8:00, not this PorkFest, but the year prior. His talk was at 8 a.m. and he was gone at 8:42. He was out of there.
He did a Q&A at the end of the Indiana one, and I remember Karen Ann Harlow had a bunch of questions for him on that.
I'm sure.
Yeah, he was fine when everybody's watching, but if you're in Indiana, a heavily Prague state, and We Are Libertarians wants to talk to you, which arguably has the largest Prague population in the delegates, right? Why would you treat those people poorly? The guy didn't want to be in the Libertarian Party. It was always evident. He just wanted a path to get power. It was very clear.
Become relevant again, yeah.
If he wanted a path to power, why the hell was he in the Libertarian Party?
And why the hell did he run in the GOP primary? That makes even less sense.
Guys, I just found out the Eagles lost.
Are you serious? Oh, man.
Wow. Son of a bitch.
Oh, breaking news.
Ryan is breaking something right now. I guarantee it.
So no matter which one of these two wins, governing wise, to me, I don't think it's really much different. But the thing that I'm concerned about is whoever wins, regardless, I think there's going to be a lot of rioting and chaos. Half the country's not going to think the election was legitimate. And I just think things are going to get really crazy and really bad pretty soon. And it's a bit concerning to me. Does anybody else share these concerns?
Yeah, I live in Los Angeles. I think the city's going to be on fire in 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm concerned.
Are you going to stay in the city for the election?
Yeah. Where am I going to go?
Do you think that
I got to go to work that day? I mean, what am I supposed to do?
Do you think there's riots regardless of who wins?
Regardless.
I'm not. Well, in my case, here, no. I think what the riots are if Trump wins here.
Okay.
But
so you think
in other places? I don't know.
I think there might be riots if Biden wins, but I just don't think the right.
There might be celebrations if Biden wins that turn into.
Yeah. You don't think the poor boys?
I don't think the right really riots too much.
Do you hear when Biden called the Proud Boys the poor boys?
Yeah. That was actually. Yeah.
Was that on purpose, or does he just not know what they are?
Purpose, but.
No, that they this group recently did, like, they're kind of war gaming out the election, and it was
with Jeffrey Toobin.
Was it John Podesta? No, not that. That was so funny.
By the way, we're on break right now, guys. Just a second. I'll be right back. Video's off, right?
John Podesta was playing
Bobby's question of who's the most likely to masturbate. So.
Well, what timing, Bobby? I think we know the answer.
John Podesta was playing Biden in it, but the outcome and all their different scenarios was like violence in the streets and political turmoil.
I mean, the thing is, I do think we won't know who won, and they're not going to declare a winner probably until at least Thanksgiving or later. Which
that might tamp down some of
weird.
the unrest, actually.
I don't know. I don't think it's going to be quite that, but it's just my opinion.
I thought
I'd love to be wrong.
I thought it was trending towards a landslide, but this oil thing.
50 million people have already voted. It's
30,
not
40.
matter.
I think was it 43 million people?
Yeah, but the people already voting, like their vote wasn't. I mean, people doing early voting and mail-in voting now. They're not going to swing their vote no matter what happens.
Right?
Nobody's going to swing their vote. That's the point. This
there are people who are still. I guarantee you that would either thinking about not voting or voting for Trump, or considering a third party or Trump. I think that's the undecided votes.
So driving home from work today, I was thinking about the outcome of the election. I was like, there's too many variables. I couldn't possibly guess who's going to win. I have no idea. But tonight, after I got home and I watched the press conference of Hunter Biden's associate, I was like, yeah, I think it's going to be Trump because this is going to be made a big deal out of pretty soon. People watching the debates didn't know what it was. Fox News is covering it.
Yeah, but that's still only 7 million people in the country that watch that. Out of the 150 that are going to vote?
Well, it's not only Fox News. I mean, that's not where I heard about it, but I was just naming a mainstream media source that is covering it. It was actually played on Fox News. His press statement was like a Fox News interview type thing.
I haven't dived into the Hunter Biden stuff. We're going to talk about it on Saturday, and I got to do all my homework tomorrow. But I saw that the reporter who actually wrote the original New York Post article didn't put his byline on it because he was embarrassed by it. There's a lot of problems that seem to be arising from that, and I think that kind of kills it. But I'd also
but Chris,
I'd also say Billy, Billy Carter, Bill Clinton's brother, none of these people, or the drug addict brother for George Bush, the oldest. None of those people ever really factor in. And my view of all this is that Donald Trump is kind of setting this up because he knows he's probably going to lose. And so what Donald Trump wants to do is he's going to do to Joe Biden what Hillary Clinton did to him, which is what the Republicans and Ken Starr did to Bill Clinton. So they basically, if you follow the Whitewater investigations with Starr, almost all of the shit that happened to Donald Trump is all the stuff that Starr did to them. It was payback. And then he's going to do that to Joe Biden. He's going to use it to undermine the presidency of Joe Biden because Donald Trump is all about personal grievance.
Well, yeah. And all this is going to continue. These kind of things will continue to happen. Every president from now on is going to be impeached. It's
good.
Oh yeah, whatever. I don't care. I'm just waiting for it all to collapse.
No,
It's
you gotta
fine.
understand. I want them, anybody who's close to any lines, and Trump has crossed a bunch of them, get him out of there. Impeach him, vote him out, put someone new in. If they do it, impeach him, vote him out, get someone new in. Until we take our country back by voting these people out when they do wrong, then we're letting them do it. We're just letting this happen. And that's when the only way it's going to change is us to just say enough of it, quit worrying about the partisanship of it and say, this guy was wrong. Get him out of there. Trump broke so many laws and crossed so many lines and destroyed so many norms, as it were. He needs to be go, and he needs to be probably indicted and everything else, and get him in jail and make him pay for it.
I agree that them all need to be out and indicted and in jail, but I really do not think that voting is going to ever get us there ever.
See, I take the opposite tack of Rhinehold, and this was our argument for impeachment, because he was all for it. I was against impeachment because it never was going to change anything. It's a divisive exercise for almost no reason. And I would say to our buddy Justin here, oh God, Spangle is going there. There's about as much evidence. So my reaction to the Steele dossier and the Russiagate and the Russia collusion in the beginning, if you go back and listen to We Are Libertarians, was an eye roll. All right, I'll wait for more evidence. And there never was really concrete evidence in that period of time to really show that there was collusion between the campaign and Russia. And there was a lot of tangential things that never really got tied together. And that's how the Hunter Biden stuff feels too. And so if you're going to be consistent and not really take the Steele dossier seriously, why would you look at the tangential one email saying the big guy wants his cut? Well, who knows who the big guy is? You're making leaps and assumptions in the way that
the person who
knows
the email
what pizza is.
The person who the email was sent to has come out and said it was Joe Biden, and we know
what napkins are.
Nobody has denied the validity of the emails or that the laptop was
Joe
Hunter's.
Biden and his campaign have, but that's
no. They have not said it's not Hunter's laptop. Or
you said they're not real emails.
No, they have not said that.
They haven't said that.
Okay. They did.
They just said it's a disinformation.
They said the whole thing is Russian disinformation campaign. They did not say
it's just like the Steele document, the Steele dossier. Here's how it works.
It's not though. It's
how is it not?
This is why
because there's actual emails. His actual Hunter Biden's signature is on like the thing for the computer store. They've whatever. We'll all find out soon enough.
So will we? I don't think we will find out.
One thing
you have somebody making the attack that says something. No,
we're never going to find out shit.
We're never going to find out.
Giuliani has this copy. What I'm saying is Giuliani has this copy of this thing, and he's saying this is what this stuff is on here, and he's let a few people who are friendly to him see it.
He's given it to the FBI and the Delaware police.
It's to the police. The police aren't doing anything. You know why? Because
well, they gave it. They gave it to the FBI.
Investigation of this. Yeah. So first of all, Giuliani's got a hold of supposedly child porn, and he's had for a year, kind of big boy jail stuff. Then he's also got the fact that he's now accusing Hunter of sexually being sexually inappropriate with Biden's granddaughter, a 14-year-old girl.
When he was dating his brother's widow. But she sent text message to him saying that she didn't appreciate him being naked and smoking crack around the kids. It was
and in that text message also says that when it didn't happen.
Wow, so strict.
You don't think that happened?
She says it didn't happen in the text. If you read the whole thing.
Hold on. Let me ask you guys. Why do I give a fuck? I don't care. I don't.
So let me tell you all that's going to matter about tonight was the line Trump had, which I thought was fantastic when they were asking Trump about his tax returns and, digging through, Biden's calling him corrupt. Trump's calling Biden corrupt. And Trump goes, you guys spent $48 million on the Mueller report, whatever it was, Russiagate, found nothing. And he goes, I can spend $1 million. I can spend $1 million and find more.
They found a lot of things on the Mueller report. That's the thing, is that the Mueller part wasn't a nothing burger. There was a lot in there. There was no collusion in there, but there was a lot in there. There was a bunch of obstruction of justice in there. There was a bunch. We found out through the Roger Stone trial.
You can't obstruct.
Did know about the WikiLeaks.
If there was not a crime, you can't obstruct like a crime that didn't happen.
You can.
Well, you shouldn't be able
told
to.
you that? That's such
It only took
bullshit.
45 minutes for us
It's
to
just
get to
common sense.
exactly
It does.
why I
It
set
makes
this
no
up.
sense to. I committed no
so
crime.
Here's if I accuse you of rape, right?
Yeah.
And they're
Are
investigating
you doing
the
that
rape.
to be clear?
Just
right
listen. We're just talking.
How he is clean.
If I accuse you of rape, and they're investigating it, and I try to bribe the officers to look the other way, even if I'm not guilty of doing it, right? And they find later that it didn't happen, I still obstructed justice. There does not have to be a proof of crime in order for a obstruction of justice.
What do words even mean? What justice did you stop from happening?
Yeah, but we live in we have a system of the rule of law. Like if you want the rules to apply.
Do we really have a justice system, or do we just have a system that they use in order to entrap people in crimes?
Well, depends on how much money you have.
I'm going to go with the expert from Felony Friday on this one.
Which, can we talk about? Trump just gave clemency to 5 people yesterday, which is nice. One person.
So what about Ross Ulbricht?
Whose wife was just on. We'll see. It might happen. It might happen before the election. Would love to see Ross Ulbricht get.
That'd be the only way he could get me to vote for him.
That'd be amazing. I would vote for him. If he grants Ross clemency, I'm voting for Trump. I'll say it right now.
I'll retweet that you're voting for Trump if he does it, but I won't vote for Trump.
I don't see him. He won't do Snowden, and I don't think he'll do Ulbricht. He'll do all the people who are in his periphery, who are still under. He's got to do Flynn because Flynn's put himself in a horrible situation.
He should do.
There's a lot of people he's going to be pardoning. Yeah.
So if he were going to do it, he would do it for votes, and he'd do it now. He'd do it in the next week and a half. If he doesn't do it before Election Day, I don't think he will do it at all. Unless.
So I was wondering though, what if he loses? What's he going to do during that month? What will happen?
We talked about that.
There might be some wild stuff.
That's going to be an interesting one.
Here are the reports that have been talked about. So
everyone pardoned, just everyone.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Not far off. So
the chance.
The Libertarians' nips may get hard and might vote for Joe Biden just for this outcome, because if Trump loses, what they're preparing is a whole list of bureaucrats and government positions that they're just going to completely eliminate. You'll see people like Fauci and Ray and all these lifelong people that are in the news that he doesn't like get fired. And
it is the most compelling case for Biden I've heard. Yeah.
And so one of the problems for Donald, so if you read The Fifth Risk by Michael Lewis, which was a really good book, he kind of talks about how Trump never really filled out these bureaucratic positions with his people because he didn't have people. And so like 25% of the government just never went staffed. And the problem is, as these positions never got filled and you've got 20 to 40% of the government and these administrative state positions unfilled, and then Joe Biden gets into office, what happens? He fills all those people with even worse people than if let's say, typically what happens is a president comes in like Trump and he's on the right and he'll bring in AEI and Heritage and Cato and fill out all these administrative state positions. And then the Democrats come in and they fill it in with the Center for American Progress, but Trump never did any of that. And so as a defensive maneuver, he's just going to eliminate all of those positions and a ton of regulations. And he is going to, so I liken it to when I played fantasy football and I kind of gave up and I stopped playing. And in week 10, I just release all of my.
You son of a bitch! You're the worst.
You're that guy.
I would release.
That guy's the worst.
Players just to for Joker like chaos.
Never play with Chris Spangle ever.
So we should vote for Joe Biden, is what you're saying.
I think Chris just sold me, to be honest. I've never.
The problem's going to happen is that
I could be convinced, but he just might have done.
Yeah.
But then won't Biden just recreate those positions, or what's that really?
Biden's going to come in. He's going to have the House. He's probably going to have the Senate. Yeah. He can fill all that stuff in, get everybody confirmed, and have basically what he wants across the board without the political fallout that a president usually comes in with, where they don't replace a lot of those people.
Well, he's going to have a harder time than you think, because he's going to have absolutely, like, when Bush transitioned to Obama, they were like binders for every single job, like
binders full of women.
They gave so many, and then Obama left like all these people, and they talk about in that Fifth Risk book, like they had like meeting rooms set up, and like at the chamber at the Commerce Department, and they expected like teams of people to come in to prepare, and like Wilbur Ross just shows up one day and he's like, "Yeah, I'm the new Commerce Secretary. Show me where my office is at." And like there was zero transition whatsoever, and so Biden's preparing for like like Clinton, the worst thing Clinton did. That was like the worst transition in modern history, and like it's because he stole all the K's off of keyboards in the White House, and it was a big
Didn't he fire like the whole Justice Department? So
yeah,
anybody who was working a case against him was gone.
Right. But you got to remember, Biden's going to go and say, "Okay, I need to fill all these positions. I don't know what to do." I've got a lot of people that were in those positions back when Obama was in president. So
I'll call them up.
Hold on. Let me explain to Kenneth why he's retarded. Am I the only one not surprised that Chris is trying to find out outlandish reasons to vote for Biden? I was asked a question and I explained.
I love that we can have comments on this, by the way.
These were reasonable reasons.
This is
That's the only good reason I've heard ever.
Literally leaks out of the White House as to what Trump is planning to do after he leaves, and I made a sarcastic joke. I'm sorry that you're not intelligent enough to see that.
Ooh, right. I think he just called Kenneth low IQ. Very Trumpian.
There's a difference between so a lot of times we talk about things that are opinions that we have views on and things like that. But we also comment on things that are how we see the reality of what's going on. Like I don't want Biden or Trump to win, but I can look at what's going on in polling and I can make an assumption of what I think is going to happen. So I think a lot of people get confused on when we do all this commenting on things is that where's the line between what's our opinion and what we're just reporting on. Basically.
You have to actually explain what's going on, or else you can't effectively give an opinion because people don't know people don't have context to the news anymore.
They're retarded.
Well,
Howie, you've been canceled.
A lot of bombs dropped tonight
because of Chris's comment.
Oh well,
I was trolling Kenneth.
Hey, I forgot my funniest moment in the debate. That was something we were talking about. I don't know if it's funny to anybody else. It was just funny to me. Well, there was a couple actually. Both of them might have been jokes that I'm making up in my head that weren't supposed to be jokes. I'm pretty sure that's actually true. One was when. We already talked about when Trump said I'm the least racist person in the room, but then right after that, he's like, I can't even see the audience. It's so dark in here. I was like,
God,
whoa.
Yeah, I thought, oh my God, he's gonna go there.
I was
like,
I don't think he actually meant that at all, but I think he was just trying to say I can't see. But it came across that way.
He doesn't have that in his mind to understand that may not be the best way to phrase that.
No, exactly. That's my point.
This justifies that he's the least racist person in the room. He didn't even think about that.
He's still not racist. He doesn't even think about that as racist.
He was sued twice for not renting to black people, and I'm trying to figure out how that makes him not the racist person in the room.
Am I the only one that was really annoyed that Biden had a mask on just so he could have him front for 1 second?
That was my first. That was my first note.
That was very done for a reason.
Obvious. Yes.
Yeah. I even wrote that down.
That was my first note. I was like, Biden is really making sure to be seen removing his mask. So we all know he had the mask on, whereas Trump gives no fucks.
Well, he's immune. I said that to my mom today. She's like, we don't know that.
I like how he's like, they tell me I'm immune. Who knows for how long? Maybe 2 months, maybe forever. I don't know, but I'm immune. And then also Biden said something that also was not meant to be a joke and probably wasn't to most people. But he said, I've been looking to, take back all the stuff we did with the 94, let people out of jail. Nobody should be in jail for having personal amounts of drugs, especially cocaine. And I just thought it was hilarious.
I missed that. Wow.
I was actually like, well, what about crack though?
He literally said, especially cocaine. That's a quote.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I laughed very hard at that as well. That was unintentional.
I got angry every time he mentioned Scranton.
I did like when
I like how Trump was like, "You're not really from Scranton."
Oh, and us people from Scranton, we can't afford to own stocks like you rich folk.
The Scranton thing really bugs him because I've seen him say that about Biden a couple times. He's like, he's not even from Scranton. It's like
I don't consider him from Scranton.
He moved when he was like 3 from Scranton.
I never saw him there.
for some reason, that's like some sort of really weird trigger for Trump, and it just pushes his button.
Isn't there a statue of Joe Biden in Scranton or no? There's not. Oh, okay. I must have.
So there was one thing he said too that really got me was that he's like,
Delaware,
I'm the reason you're the reason I ran. You and Obama are the reason I ran for president. And I'm trying to figure it out. Can you remember, was Obama president in 2000 when he ran for president?
Well, no. This
he didn't really run. He
this
just
last time when he ran, It was because Obama made fun of him at that dinner, and that's like what did it. You know,
I don't think he really.
What's that like press dinner? It's usually like a big jokey thing, but Trump won't have it.
Yeah,
or won't go to it. Like Obama, was busting
the correspondence dinner.
Yeah, Obama was busting Trump's balls, and I think that's when he decided to run.
You're talking about Rhinehold in 2000. What was that? The Reform Party that he ran on?
He tried to run on the Reform Party. He was saying that we need to third parties should be on the debate stage. This is horrible that this is happening, and he got so bad numbers that he dropped out like a month and a half later.
Yeah, he was like trying to run in their primary, but he didn't actually go through with it ultimately. Or I don't know if they have a primary, but however the Reform Party chose it. Chose it. Not primary.
He was trying to run and get a name for himself, and he was going to run, and he did what he does now. He was trying to do that back then, and it just nobody cared because it wasn't one of the two parties.
Do you think that he initially ran for president to, whatever reason, I don't even know why, publicity or what have you, to start a TV network, and then this just happened to him like many people believe? Or do you think that he really is 7D chess or whatever have you? Like, this is I don't necessarily believe that to the fullest extent, but I also don't think he's an idiot. But do you actually think that he didn't intend to win the presidency when he first ran?
I don't think he expected.
I was asking Rhinehold, Howie.
I think he was more. Oh, sorry.
You can answer too.
No, whatever. I don't. So I think that he had a couple of minds. One is that I want to do this to get publicity. I'm really good at smacking from the sidelines, so I can say a bunch of stuff, get a lot of publicity, and then I can kind of build my name up a little bit and go make money off of it. Now, if I win, cool. But I don't think he went in with the anticipation that he was going to win. I think he went in the anticipation was he's going to get something out of it. And then if he does win, then gravy for him.
So the tax return showed that he made like $600 million off of The Apprentice from NBC, and that was winding down and about to get canceled. And he had used a lot of that money to buy new golf courses. He had bought like 15 different properties in just a few years, and kind of needed to goose that. And so
more money, more problems, man.
Yeah,
shit. I hate when that happens, when I make $600 million and I buy too many golf courses and I gotta figure out, what do I do now?
No, it's drunk night on eBay. So he
$6 million done, $10 million done.
Negotiating
I'm just getting drunk about Russia.
So he basically tried to he ran for the primary because he did this in 88 and 2000, like we said, to goose up some attention for himself. And he was like, there's no way I'll ever make it through the primary and win. And then he started doing well. And I forget what one of these
More than doing well, he started just cleaning up. I mean,
yeah. And there was one of these tell-all books where he looked at the person and was like, how do I get out of this? Then this is a well-known rumor here in Indiana, like on election night when he won, Karen Pence looked at Mike Pence and because they only did this because he was going to lose the governor's race and they thought Trump would lose, and then it would set him up for a run this year. Because the second Mike Pence got elected, he started polling in Iowa. Like, it was literally within 2 months. And so when they won and North Carolina was announced, Karen Pence looked at Mike Pence and goes, well, are you happy now? You got what you wanted. And stormed out of the room and left the party and left Mike there alone. Because she was so pissed.
That's hilarious.
Pence should get divorced. He can't even eat with a woman alone.
He's way too afraid of Karen.
Remember, she wouldn't go to the White House for like 2 months or 3 months or whatever. She was mad at the whole thing with the win. I don't think she was happy at all.
She was incredibly pissed. Karen Pence was my ex-wife's third grade teacher.
They were not the only. They were not the only two people.
That's 3 degrees of Pence right there.
They were two of about like 100 million people. They're incredible.
Spangle is what, 4 degrees to Donald Trump?
I know. I want to catch his COVID. I want to be immune too.
You can be immune too for maybe 3 months, 4 months.
I wish I had it. I thought I had it. I got tested and I didn't have it.
Is it weird that I'm always disappointed when I get the negative COVID test? I have to get tested at work every 2 weeks, and I think I get a free 2 weeks off if I get positive. So,
hey, what's your blood?
Every 2 weeks,
Mark.
Did
what's
they
your
give
blood?
You an antibody test too?
I don't know what kind of test it is. I just spit in a thing and send it in.
What's your blood type, by the way?
I have no idea. Why would I talk about that publicly?
How do you not even know that? God, my wife doesn't know.
I don't know that either. I wish I
have no idea.
I was in the military. I know.
Blood type fraud. If you say it out in public, people.
I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. Is someone gonna find out my? I don't know. Hack into my bank account if they know.
Y'all really don't know your blood types?
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
I think
the hospital will figure that out if they need to.
I think I'm O negative, which is that's the good one, right?
Well, not for you. Not for you. Good for everybody else.
Universal donor. Trust me, I get phone calls all
We could all use your blood. You could only use O negative blood.
I've got it in my Apple Health Kit thing, but I don't want to put that out there. Someone might steal my identity with it.
All right, yeah.
All they need is your favorite movie and your blood type, and they can get into everything.
Pretty much.
Well, how much longer do we want to go? We're in an hour and 5 minutes.
I just started getting tipsy. Now we can maybe we can start a final thoughts-esque sort of series of statements of some kind, but I got time.
All right, go ahead, Mark. Final thoughts.
Oh, I didn't know that it came to me first. Well, my final thoughts are that I didn't learn anything new, as I never do at any debate in ever, really. Any political debate. I don't think I've learned anything new from any political debate I've ever watched in my life. Even Ron Paul, I didn't really learn anything new. He was just saying things I already believed. So I was like, oh yeah, this guy's saying this thing I know. So no, even then I wouldn't say so. I'm sure for some people, Ron Paul was teaching them things they didn't know about the Federal Reserve and that sort of thing. So definitely can't speak to this debate in any kind of way like that. I will say, after like covering all these Democratic primaries and the last debate, it was the first debate that it actually didn't feel that cringe to me to watch. It actually wasn't hard to watch. It kind of went by fast. I didn't find myself like, oh God, will this just end? So I guess that's something to say about it. But
did you guys think it reminded me of the VP debate reminded me of how politics used to be? It was a little bit like just two politicians that don't like each other having a debate. It wasn't Trump made a specific conscious effort to behave himself. I mean, you could tell, it was, he didn't even mention Hunter. He wanted to, like in the beginning,
he said laptop from hell was the closest he got.
He didn't. I don't think he ever mentioned his name. He mentioned family members. He said at one point in the beginning,
he didn't say like, where are you getting all the money and say,
right,
big man, are you the big man? I did laugh at that as well.
Are you the big man?
He did say
you probably aren't the big man, but you might be the big
anymore.
Man.
Yeah, he said something about him not being in the military, but I don't know if he said it was your son or if he said Hunter. I don't remember.
No, yeah, he was talking. I think he said it.
He complimented Biden at one point in the debate, and I just about lost it. I mean, it was like he turned to him under his breath and kind of said, "You're doing really well. You're impressing me," or something like. Yeah, quote.
I missed that.
Like, oh. Wow.
Was that on mic or he just like mouthed it?
I saw. I heard it. I was just I wrote it down and I'm like, wow.
Well, doesn't that just show you behind the scenes even more like how politics is, that everyone's on the same team here ultimately?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think
he also complimented the moderator a couple times, which I thought was kind of out of, normally he was attacking the
really
media,
trying to be a different face.
It did seem like he was trying to he's already done everything to shore up the base and make the most bombastic statements possible and et cetera. So maybe this was the time he's like, all right, I'm going to try to play a little more even keeled here for those people that might be on the fence, that might think I don't mind, Trump's just a little too bombastic for me. So maybe that's part of his strategy there. Cause he didn't really say anything too outrageous besides the normal, made up numbers and things like that.
Gonna change.
Yeah,
3.5 years.
Right.
4 years.
I bet you 10 years after he's out of power that he will be remembered fondly by the press like George W. Bush is now.
I don't know how
he'd be more Nixonian than anything.
Yeah, I disagree with you.
Far more Nixonian.
I do think we should include, since this is the last time we're all going to be in this room together, friends, before the election anyway, maybe a prediction of what's going to happen. And I'm the worst person on this because, interestingly enough, I was actually much more confident about Trump winning 4 years ago when no one expected him to win. I think me and Odie, it was on a podcast in December of 2015 that Odie and I both said we thought Trump was going to win the presidency, and he did. And I wasn't necessarily confident about that. I was still
I had agreed as well.
Okay, maybe you agreed, but all right, how we agreed, everybody. But still, when you see all those things coming out ahead of the election, like 99.9% chance Hillary's going to win, I still thought, oh, maybe I'm just wrong in my prediction. But I was right in that prediction. I do feel less confident saying it now. I will say that.
Yeah.
So any prediction I make will not be made in confidence. But I guess I wouldn't be surprised by any result. There's looking at the polls. I think Rhinehold and Spangle both make pretty reasonable arguments for why we might want to believe the polls more than we did 4 years ago. I think those are points I can't really make an evidence-based disagreement with, but there's something in my gut, and that's what I went with 4 years ago, which made me think he was going to win. There's a gut part of me that does think Trump is going to win, but I'm not going to say that with extreme confidence at all. So I guess that's my take on my prediction, but I do think LA's going to burn. So yeah, I'll be here. I'll be like that dog in the meme. It's just like, this is fine. I'll just be like here podcasting. This is fine.
All right.
I'm armed.
We'll just we'll go through the boxes. First, I apologize for using the R word. It wasn't very nice. And Kenneth, I apologize.
Republican?
You ticked me off. I'm sure you were joking and I took it the wrong way. I would say that the debate overall is a draw. I think that Biden looked really bad in the first one. It's just he never got a chance to look bad. Trump looked good in the beginning because he had some facts. I think Donald Trump, this was his best debate performance at all, like totally, because he was in command of the facts. You know, the thing with
the two or of his debate performances all time.
All of his debate performances, but I think the thing with Donald Trump is that Donald Trump is a bullshitter. He's a bullshit artist. He lies. He'll say anything to get elected. But like Donald Trump also, he does kind of like, he's every talk radio caller I ever screened. He hears something on a podcast or in a conversation, and that just kind of filters in and that becomes a fact. And so like, if you listen to him and you kind of read the papers, you go, I know where Donald Trump, what he means because he's got that fact, right? Like he's not very coherent. I mean, this was really too.
Do you think that's kind of purposeful though? Like, I feel like he puts those things out because he's playing to those people.
I think he's just hyped up. I think he's just like I don't think he's a dumb person. I think he showed his intelligence tonight more than he does most times. Like he does retain a lot of facts. I just think he's not an intellectually curious person, you know? So he's not like,
You don't think he's sitting up reading Nietzsche and like reading Aristotle at night?
Like I believe Fauci when he says that he has like ADD to the max. Like you can just kind of tell like watching the guy and hearing him talk. So like I think he kind of absorbs the facts that he wants to hear and he grabs onto those little tidbits and holds on to them. So like if you watch the 60 Minutes, the leaked 60 Minutes interview, or you watch this debate, like you hear him kind of making an argument with some facts. It's just that he doesn't nail it. You know, if you watch like Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or even George Bush kind of go through that motion, they can do that. They can put together an argument. He's just, for weirdly the greatest communicator since Reagan, he's not a very good communicator, and I think he's just kind of all over the place. But I think that he was stronger tonight than he has been in any debate with Hillary or Biden or any one of the 2016. The novelty is kind of worn off. Like he had a couple funny moments, but like I remember watching those 2016 debates just like with my jaw on the floor, mesmerized by the pageantry of it, like the drama of it. Like, how could this guy say that? He's breaking.
It was a magical time, 2016.
It was.
I enjoyed that debate season so much more than this one.
That was pre-COVID. I mean, it kind of puts a cloud over everything.
Yeah,
but even the primary debates, I mean, the Democratic debates were just brutal to watch, whereas I enjoyed pretty much everything.
Yeah, and Derek asks if Trump was always like he was tonight, would he be in a better situation? And I totally agree. Like, I think Donald Trump had such a good election that if he had like 2020 really lost it for him. And when the crisis hit, he did everything was wrong. His instincts were wrong, like agreeing to shut down economies and messing up testing and the way that he messaged it and the fighting. Like he did everything wrong. And it's like
putting that stuff out in the first place was wrong, but he was dead on about a lot of what he said tonight.
Oh, you're stealing my closing statement.
I forgot we were making statements and not talking anymore.
But how do you not penalize the guy for being wrong when the chips were down and he needed to make the right decisions? And that comes from him having no ideology whatsoever. Like if we were in that decision and you had all the information that you were getting, you might question yourself, but you at least have an ideology that you hold firm to and go, no, this is what I'm going to cling to. And so, that's part of why he's not a good president. But then, his lack of ideology could have been a help to him, but it wasn't. So I think he had a good debate, and like Chuck Todd said, he stopped the bleeding. But I don't think that it's nearly enough to keep him from losing the presidency. I just think the wave that has kind of been building to get him out of office, I think people are just tired. I think they're so done with it. I think that even the people who kind of understand, like, I know that Biden's just going to be a really shitty president.
I'm just laughing at your cat appearing behind you. That's all.
I just think people kind of like, if you watch Barack Obama's speech, he's like, imagine a world where you don't have to think about what the president said that day. I think that's the most appealing pitch for Biden. It's the only appealing pitch for Biden.
It's really his only pitch.
You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it right now, actually.
Yeah. So I just think that's going to speak to a lot of the American electorate. You're seeing it in the suburbs. And I don't know how he overcomes that. There's no amount of Hunter Bidens that can get over, like, when you saw the COVID stuff, when he got COVID, he violated the basic story principle. Mittens. So, like,
I'm voting for Mittens. I'm writing in Mittens. After
the hero faces adversity. The hero learns a lesson, and the hero changes. Like, Trump learned nothing. He can learn nothing. He cannot change. Like, it's just.
Has he ever followed that though?
What Trump should have learned.
He's always been different. That's how he got elected.
He shouldn't have gone with the peer pressure of the media and everybody else and stopped taking hydroxychloroquine. You know who didn't stop taking it? His debate coach, Rudy Giuliani. You know who didn't get COVID? Rudy Giuliani.
Right.
Howie is actually sponsored by hydroxychloroquine, by the way.
Yes. A drug that has no patent is dirt cheap.
Right. Rhinehold.
The debate tonight, I think it was a much better debate. I think both Trump and Biden did better than they did, obviously, in the first debate, but also just kind of held their own and showed that they're both capable of doing enough to keep their base, keep voting for him. Nobody really lost any points, I think. Anybody who, like I said, people are talking about the gas thing. I don't think anybody who's worried about the gas industry was ever going to vote for Biden to begin with, because they know that, it's not like it's changing minds. I don't really see anything there. I think there was probably more mind changing on a Jersey Shore episode. So this is, so I don't think this changes the race in any way. I think we've got a bunch of people have already voted. We've got people who are standing in line to vote. We got people who have made up their minds. Both camps are trying to get their people out. And I think there's going to be a much bigger turnout for the left this year than 2016, because Biden is not as despised as Hillary was. And everybody talks about how Trump won in 2016 because he was the firebrand that did all this stuff. And no, that's not why he won. He won because he was almost less hated than Hillary was. Hillary was the only person I think he could have beat. So right. That's how so I think the election is going to come down to people are tired. They were doing focus groups a year ago before as they were getting ready to go into the impeachment. And the focus groups were saying the same thing. They were just saying, I'm tired of hearing about every day turning on the news, and I'm just hearing about 5 to 10 different things that have happened. I don't want this anymore.
We featured a tweet by Guy Benson who pointed at that Pew thing, where basically people feel they're better off than they were 4 years ago, but the gap of I like Donald Trump and I just can't take it anymore was so big that it erased all of that. And the Guy Benson, this conservative commentator, goes, and Ben Shapiro's made the same point, like, he's the one who's lost this. He's responsible, not the media, not Democrats, not any of that.
I think so. So I thought that Trump was going to win in 2016. And I thought if he had come in and he had done a good job, and I was defending him for a long time, but he just couldn't let it go. He couldn't let things go. He couldn't just be a president. He had to keep going like he was still running for president. He never stopped running for president, sniping at the incumbent. It's all they did to me. They did to me. These, he's never just stood up there and said, "I'm going to be a leader," right? And that's what people wanted, and that's what people are expecting. And
Rhinehold, like, his closing pitch in 2016 was at least like, we all know the public loves free stuff. He was going to give us a wall and some conservative judges, and he was going to do this. Like, this time, it's like, I'm mad at Leslie Stahl. Now, then the next day, I'm mad at the moderator. Like, it's just personal grievance after personal grievance.
Turning the Justice Department into his own personal lawyers. I mean, it's embarrassing what he's done to the Department of Justice. And to be honest with you, Rudy Giuliani, I think, should be in jail for what he's done. So I think me and Howie probably disagree on that one. But when you bring somebody's granddaughter, 14-year-old granddaughter into it, has no business being involved in the situation at all. Nobody thought that Hunter Biden was a great guy. I don't think you need to go that far to basically throw his granddaughter under the bus.
Howie Snowden, did Rudy Giuliani try to have sex with a 15-year-old girl on Borat?
No.
Well, that thing is ridiculous.
He was tucking in his shirt after
you watch it, it's obvious.
After a 24-year-old woman untucked it. But anyways,
he was pretending to be 15. But.
So I thought this debate was better than the last. This was an important debate. I think if Trump performed the way he did at the last one, it would have hurt him a lot. But last impressions are important impressions. And not to be contrarian, but I do think he's going to win.
That is how he not wanted to be contrarian.
I do think he's going to win, not just because of the Hunter Biden stuff I mentioned earlier, but because I think the big thing in people's mind and what came across is that Biden is a lockdown president and Trump wants to open things up and get life back to normal. And I think we all know that this isn't that dangerous to 99% of us. And this can't go on or it's going to destroy the country. I think that's going to help Trump a lot. I think there's a lot of supporters that won't admit it because of the insanity of the left is to tax people. And I don't think the polls are accurate. And I think that Trump will win. I think it might be close. I won't be surprised if Biden does. But if I had to bet one way or the other, I'd bet on Trump.
Despite all the evidence that I provided, I still think you could be right. Like, I feel the same way as Mark. It's like, there's really no way to tell. But, I mean, it's a toss up.
I won't be shocked either way.
I think Biden 300 electoral points.
Wow. Okay, I would be shocked by that.
I don't think either side is going to blow it out. But with regards to the debate tonight, I think I agree with the consensus. I guess I can call it a consensus that this was Trump's best debate of any debate that he's had. Well, we'll say at least in the general election. I don't really remember the primaries. Of course, they were super entertaining in 2016 with Trump making fun of Rand Paul and stuff like that.
I was going to say my favorite Trump moment was actually him going after Rand Paul, because Rand Paul made the dumbest argument that anybody that's supposed to be principled could make when he's like, see, he said he wouldn't support whatever Republican wins. I'm like, why are you the one making that argument, Rand Paul? I know this is a 5-year-old point I'm making, but yeah. I always enjoyed Trump making fun of Rand Paul's goofy hair.
So it was, I mean, I think, yeah, Trump definitely had a definitive shift in his demeanor tonight. It was purposeful. He was, I think overtly trying to show respect to the moderator. And I did see someone comment that, saying you're doing a good job tonight wasn't directed to Biden. That was directed to the moderator. I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. So maybe there was one to Biden too. I missed that.
That may be true. I thought it looked like he was.
Oh no! Oh, that's true. That was the moderator.
Okay, I mistook that then.
With regards to who do I think is going to win? I still think that Trump is going to win. I do think that Joe Biden will win the popular vote. I do think in blue states it's going to be a much bigger blowout than with Hillary Clinton. But I think it all comes down to the swing states. That's really all that matters. There's like 5 or 6 swing states that it comes down to. And you look at those swing states, you look at the RCP polling average, and for the most part, Trump is polling in a more narrow margin with a smaller margin with Biden than he was with Clinton at the same point in 2016. Also, when you start to dig into registrations, you look in Florida, Democratic registrations, Republican registrations, the gap has closed to the point that it's almost even in Florida. Pennsylvania, it's not even, but Republicans have had many more registrations. I think like 100,000 more registrations than Democrats. And Pennsylvania is one of those weird states. I know a lot of people, especially boomers, who are registered Democrats and always have voted Republican. They just don't change their registration. There's a lot of people like that in Pennsylvania, sort of the, I guess the Ronald Reagan, Republican or Democratic Reagan voting supporters, whatever they were called. But I think Trump will win. I don't think it's going to be a landslide, but I think it will be, when things do shake out, it will be comfortable. Just in the Electoral College, I think Biden will win the overall popular vote. But another thing that I think people are really underestimating with the mail-in voting, people say all these Democrats are voting early, which is true, and that's not surprising at all. The Democrats are doing that. I get 10 text messages a day from Democrats trying to get me to vote early. My wife gets even more because she used to be registered as a Democrat. But the thing that they're missing is it's a lot less effective. Not that there's going to be necessarily fraud involved. I'm not saying that. But for example, in Pennsylvania, there were like 70,000 mail-in ballots that were sent out that they had the addresses wrong on the inside envelope. So they had to resend them. So you have 70,000 people, or maybe it's more than that, getting 2 ballots they have to send in. So you have people who are maybe in their 60s, 70s, 80s who are 2 ballots. What do I do? If you go to vote in person and you've already registered to vote by mail in Pennsylvania, I don't know if it's like this in every state, you have to bring those ballots with you to vote in person. If you don't, you can't vote. So I think you're going to see, it's going to be a freaking mess. It's going to be a complete disaster in a lot of states. States that have done more of this before, I'm sure it won't be a big deal. But states like Pennsylvania, I don't think it's necessarily a bonus for the Democrats that they have more mail-in voters.
I totally agree, and I think that's why you see such like at this point in 2016, only like 5 or 6 million people had voted early. Now it's like 46 million, and I think that the mail-in stuff, Donald Trump accidentally scared everybody into early voting, which means the votes will be counted on election day as opposed to like the week after. But the structural problems of voting that you just pointed out is such a huge unknown. And I would also add Kanye West being in Minnesota. Minnesota was like the swing state in 2016, along with Michigan, and Kanye West is on the ballot there and in 11 other states. And the irony vote got Trump elected in 2016. It can't be undercounted in Minnesota, too.
Who gets more votes, Joe Jorgensen or Kanye West?
Jorgensen
clearly.
Jorgensen across the board, but in Minnesota, Kanye West.
We'll see. But
I agree.
Before we go to Chris, I was wanting to. Do you want to say something about the GoFundMe we're talking about?
Oh yeah, I would love if everybody could help support just a great libertarian, a great friend, a co-host on the We Are Libertarians network.
Howie Snowden, everybody. Yeah, please support Howie. He's been going through some tough times. He left the show early.
He's just a mess. No, Tricia Stewart Mann is basically a victim of lockdown. She lost a job to the lockdown, got another job, lost it to the lockdown, and then started working in a bar, and then is pregnant, and a surprise pregnancy, and it's really hard to work on your feet when you're several months pregnant, and her work and her doctor would like her not to work. But that's just not financially possible because they've had so many problems not of their own making and as a family this year. And we love Tricia, and I know Marc, you've been on Tricia's show, and she's just a great libertarian. She's our token anarchist on the network.
Good people.
She's really great human being, and just if you want to support Tricia, if you want to support her unborn child, her family, then we have started to GoFundMe to help raise money. I'll put that here in the comments, but you can also find it in the We Are Libertarians Facebook group in the announcements, and grab it there because she's in a tough spot, and she is it's tough to we asked if we could help, and she reluctantly allowed us to do this because it's not an easy thing for them and their family, but we just hope that you'll consider supporting them, and I'll put that in the chat and in the We Are Libertarians Facebook group.
Yeah, and we'll post that in the shit when we post this on our website over at Lions Liberty, and anywhere we post this around, we'll try to include that link.
Cool.
And after you support Tricia, support her first. After that, if you haven't joined our Patreon groups, do that.
That's
both
right.
Yes. We Are Libertarians and Lions of Liberty both put out tremendous Patreon content. So
tremendous.
I mean, tremendous. The best conspiracies you'll ever hear talked about will be on Conspiracy Corner on our Patreon. So
I love it. I'm anti-conspiracy theory, but I love listening to conspiracy.
Anti-conspiracy theory? It's okay to be anti-conspiracy, but anti-theory? Come on, the theories are fun.
All right, I'll give you that. That's a good
That's my compromise position.
But Howie had the best breakdown of COVID in the early days of COVID that I'd heard anywhere else.
Legit. That's legit, folks.
Yeah.
Would you tell my mother that, please? Thank you.
I mean,
if you're so smart, why don't you be a doctor? Maybe you should go back to school.
Did she say that?
Yeah.
You should say, okay, if you pay for my medical degree, I would love to see Dr. Howie. Come on. That'd be amazing. It's never too late to change course, Howie.
Not just a fake doctor anymore.
Well, you've always been my doctor, but yeah. Maybe we'll talk about that more on our Patreon. I think it's time to wind down. Chris, I'll let you do that.
Hey, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Again, please support our Patreon, support Trisha. We thank you all for listening so much. We thank you for commenting. We thank everybody for sharing this. There is no greater honor. There is no other better way to promote the shows that you love. If you love these two podcasts or really any podcast, word of mouth is the most important thing. There is listen, we have the Patreon money and we can buy advertising, and that does help. But when you share a podcast and you say, I love listening to this show for these reasons, it is a super powerful way to grow. And political podcasts in an election year, it's it's just an enormous amount of growth because people are really ready to pay attention. And then we plateau for about 3 to 4 years. So it's really, really important that you share these podcasts and help us grow. And if you don't listen to the other or one or the other, please give it a shot. All right. With that, we say thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for listening to Lions of Liberty. And we